Welcome back to the Old Photo Vault channel. Tonight, we're diving into a series of photographs that many believe capture real encounters with ghosts, images taken recently, yet carrying a darkness far older. The Girl with the Wilted Rose, cemetery grounds, undated. Mornings in town had a way of softening everything. Mail trucks humming, someone's dog barking 2 streets over. So the photo felt almost gentle when I first saw it. A young woman sits on a cracked slab, her black dress gathered neatly, as if she's waiting for someone polite enough to be late. Only after a moment do you notice how tightly she holds the rose, its petals already turning the color of old bruises. The graves behind her seem to lean inward, as though listening, and there's that sliver of space at her back, where the grass bends in the shape of another figure, one she doesn't appear to see. I showed the picture around. No one recognized her. A week later, someone mentioned that the plot she's sitting on belongs to a girl buried alone, without family. Her name, they said, was stolen by the weather long ago. The shadow in her room. Suburban bedroom, 1970s. It looks at first like the kind of ordinary evening any 15-year-old might have. Alice Bennett sitting at her cluttered vanity, half turned as if someone has called her name from the doorway. The room is warm, familiar, gently lit, and nothing in her expression suggests fear. Only when you linger does the wrongness settle in. A faint, unmistakable human head reflected low in the mirror, bowed as though listening, though no one stands beside her. The tall shadow on the curtain deepens that impression, stretching upward like an unfinished figure. Alice had mentioned hearing breathing behind her while she brushed her hair, a soft, patient rhythm. Her mother dismissed it as imagination until the photograph came back from the developer. By then, Alice had already stopped sleeping in that room, claiming she no longer wanted to share her mirror. The third guest at supper. Small-town living room. Late 1970s. Everyone said the party at the Dwyer's place was harmless fun. Homemade costumes, too much casserole. The kind of evening where laughter covers the awkward silences. Marlene Dwyer snapped this photo just as her friends in their silly red masks settled down to eat. The whole scene cheerfully ridiculous. It's only later, when the picture is held a little closer to the lamp, that you see the pale figure standing behind the woman on the right. The shape is faint but unmistakably human. Its face turned toward the table as though waiting to be served. Marlene swore no one else was in the room. No coat left hanging, no stray decoration to cast such a form. She joked at first that they had an extra guest, though she never joked about it again. And for weeks afterward, her dining chair beside the window stayed pulled slightly away from the table, as if someone had quietly risen and left. The small figure by the font. Parish Chapel, early 2000s. Nothing about the christening seemed unusual at first. Soft shuffling in the pews, the minister's calm voice, the polite rustle of family adjusting their coats. In the photograph, everyone leans in toward the baby. Each adult bowed slightly as though rehearsing a blessing. Only later did the parents notice the child-sized figure standing near the font. Too pale, too sharply outlined for a trick of the light. It appears to watch the ceremony, hands clasped in a posture no one remembers seeing that day. The girl in black, seated in the center, swore she felt someone behind her, breathing gently as if trying to match her own rhythm. No extra children were present, the family insisted. They counted twice, then again. And after the photo was printed, the minister quietly asked if the family had ever heard of a child buried beneath the chapel floor. One who never received baptism. The look from the doorframe. Abandoned corridor, undated. At first glance, the hallway seems empty in the ordinary way abandoned places are. Walls shedding their paint, plaster underfoot, a silence that feels almost dutiful. The photographer said he paused only because the green doorframe reminded him of a house his aunt once owned. A small, harmless nostalgia. But when he checked the picture later, he noticed 2 faint points of light, resting at the edge of the darkest doorway, spaced just right to suggest eyes watching from inside. They aren't bright, only steady, as if whoever they belong to has been staring for much longer than the moment the shutter clicked. He went back the next morning, sunlight pouring easily into every room, and found nothing but dust. Still, he swears the doorway narrowed behind him as he left, like someone leaning forward to see him go. The shape on the wall. Bedroom apartment. Recent. In the photo, the room looks perfectly ordinary. Soft lamplight, a cluttered desk, the quiet vanity of someone getting ready to go out. She sits confidently for the mirror, the kind of pose people hold only a second or two. But behind her, on the wall above the bed, the blurred shape leans forward with an intent you almost miss at first. It isn't a shadow. The lamp is too low, the angle all wrong. She said she didn't notice anything until later, when she felt a cold press between her shoulder blades while reviewing the picture. The air in the room changed after that. She told a friend, like someone standing just behind her, waiting for her to look up from the mirror. The figure in the weeds. Abandoned house. Late night. The place had been empty for years. The sort of sagging little house people drove past without really seeing. He took the picture only because his flashlight caught the peeling bay window. A brief flare of white against the dark that felt almost nostalgic. Later, though, he noticed the shape rising from the tall grass. Faint, upright, its outline too clean to be missed. It stands at the foot of the stairs as if deciding whether to climb. Its head slightly bowed, like someone listening for a sound inside the house. Neighbors said the last owner, a man named Collier, used to pace that yard long after midnight, whispering to the empty windows. What troubles the photographer still is the blur of motion at the figure's edge, as though it had only just turned to face him, the one who kneels behind. Clearing at night. Recent. Nina Alvarez set the scene only for a dramatic photo. No spell, no ritual, just a circle of cheap candles and a handful of tarot cards she kept in her bag for props. She knelt in the grass, adjusting her dress in the angle of the flame, trying to look as mysterious as the mood board she'd saved on her phone. But when the picture came back, a pale, half-formed figure appeared directly behind her, mirroring her posture as though it had been waiting for her to kneel. Its face is blurred, almost soft, as if leaning forward to see what she was doing. Nina remembered a strange warmth at her back then, like someone settling into the grass beside her. She left the clearing quickly afterward, though the next morning she found the spot still pressed down. 2 impressions instead of 1, side by side. The woman in the aisle. St. Clement's Chapel. Recent. Marisa Tran had come to the church only to stage a quiet, moody photo shoot. Nothing dramatic, just the soft light of the nave and the faint echo of her heels on the tile. She posed in the pews, adjusting her veil, glancing back as her friend counted down before taking the shot. But when they reviewed the photo, a pale, veiled figure appeared halfway down the aisle, blurred as if moving toward them. Marisa swore no one else had been inside. The doors were locked from the moment they arrived. The figure's posture is slightly bent, almost penitent, as though trying to reach the front pew where she sits. Later, Marisa admitted she'd felt a small shift of air beside her during the shoot, soft and chilled, like someone slipping quietly into the row. She never used that church again. She said it felt wrong to pose where someone else, unseen, still seemed to be approaching. The child by the mattress. Study bedroom. Recent. Hannah Kim had been studying late, too tired to think straight, so she snapped a quick picture of her room to remind herself how chaotic it looked before cleaning it the next morning. She sat on the mattress in her tank top and shorts, rubbing her temples, unaware of anything but the hum of her desk lamp cooling down. But in the photo, a small, pale shape stands just beside her. Child-sized, blurry at the edges, its head tilted upward as though trying to see her face. It leans a little too close, almost curious. Hannah remembered a strange tug on her blanket that night. Light enough to dismiss his sleepiness, but persistent enough to wake her twice. When she checked the spot the next day, the dust on the floor showed two uneven prints, one set from her knees and one smaller, directly facing her. The face in the metal, Old Field Road, recent. Lena Park knelt beside the abandoned tank, only to get a dramatic shot for her photography page. She liked the contrast of soft skin against rusted steel, nothing more than an aesthetic idea. She didn't notice the faint, human-like face pressed into the metal plating above her, its features shaped as though by years of watching the ground below. In the photo, the eyes seemed to follow the curve of her back, patient and strangely alert. Lena later said she felt a sudden draft, low and cold, as if someone exhaled behind her hair. When she returned in daylight, the face was still there, but softer, almost shy in the sun. And standing in that same spot, she realized the dirt beneath her knees still held two impressions, hers and a deeper pair facing her. The shape at the broken fence, Old Service Road, recent. Jonas Marek took this photo only because the fence amused him. Leaning at odd angles, half rusted, like it was trying to escape the property it guarded. He liked the look of the autumn leaves, the way they gathered obediently along the edge of the path. But when the flash lit the far side of the fence, something pale appeared there. A thin, upright figure, as if stepping forward with one hesitant arm raised. Jonas swore no one else had been near him. The road was silent except for wind brushing the chain links. In the picture, the figure's body fades into the dark, but its gesture remains strangely deliberate, almost like greeting. Jonas returned in daylight to check for smoke or plastic or anything at all. But the fence held only shadows, and the ground showed a single faint track leading right up to where the thing had stood. The whisper above the altar. Northwoods Clearing. Recent. Eli Garver found the altar by accident while hiking. Just a mess of twine, bones, candles, and a makeshift bench hidden deep between the trees. He took a photo only because he planned to show it to his friends later, proof of something strange but harmless in the woods. But in the image, a faint, upright figure rises behind the altar, pale as breath on winter glass, its form thinning upward like smoke trying to stand. Eli remembered hearing a soft shift of leaves while he was there, a sound that didn't match the wind. The candles were unlit, yet the air felt warm, as if someone had just stepped away. When he returned the next morning, the white stones had been rearranged into a narrow path leading straight toward the place where the figure had stood, ending abruptly at the dark gap between two trees. The figure at the Tombstones. Maple Hollow Cemetery. Recent. Mark Ellison stopped by the cemetery at dusk, only to photograph the sky. He liked how the last light slid behind the old monuments, turning everything bronze and solemn. He didn't notice anything strange while shooting. The grounds were still, just the faint creak of branches overhead. But in the final photo, a tall, translucent figure rises beside the Tomberlin family stones, its outline drifting upward as though pulled by the dark. One arm stretches toward the markers, almost in recognition. Mark later learned that two siblings, Hubert and Lillian Tomberlin, were buried there after passing only months apart in the early 1900s. What unsettled him most was the faint suggestion of a bowed head, as if the figure were returning to greet someone who hadn't followed. When he came back the next evening, the air felt oddly heavy around the stones, as though someone had just stepped away a moment too soon. The quiet one by the angel. Evergreen Cemetery. Recent. Clara Neumann visited the family plot only to take a solemn photo for her grandmother. She thought sitting beside the old angel statue, holding a single white rose, might look poetic rather than sad. The woods around her were hushed, heavy with summer air, and nothing moved except the faint sway of her lace hem. But in the picture, a pale figure stands just behind her hand on the stone. its body thin as mist and its head bowed toward Clara, as if leaning in to listen. The angel beside her, carved with a finger to its lips, seems to gesture directly at the shape. Warning or welcoming? No one can quite decide. Clara felt a cool breath pass her shoulder that day, gentle enough to dismiss until she saw the photo. And when she returned the next week, petals from her rose had blown into a perfect line leading from the statue to the place where the figure had stood, as if someone had quietly followed her home. The face in the screen. Apartment bedroom. Recent. Raven Doyle only meant to take a quick mirror selfie. New tights, new necklace. The sort of picture she posted without thinking. The room behind her was its usual cluttered comfort. Posters, soft lighting, a TV left off to avoid glare. But in the photo, the dark screen reflects a pale, round face peering from the lower corner, its eyes wide and fixed directly on her. Raven said no one else was home, and the TV had been unplugged for days. She remembered feeling watched, though, an odd prickle just behind her ribs as she adjusted her pose. When she tried to take another picture in the same spot, her phone refused to focus, as if something between her and the mirror kept shifting, stepping closer each time she raised the camera. The figure in the tree rings. Backyard woodpile. Recent. Caleb Morris only meant to cut a few branches for firewood. The storm the night before had dropped half the maple across his yard. When he split the limbs, he noticed two smooth slices that looked oddly polished, as though the tree had sealed something inside. In the center of each ringed cross-section, a pale silhouette appears, slender, robe-like, drifting upward as if frozen mid-step. The figure isn't bark, nor stain, nor rot. It seems part of the growth itself, shaped over years in quiet darkness. Caleb remembered hearing strange taps on the windows during the storm, soft and rhythmic, like someone knocking to be let in. He left the two pieces on his porch, but by morning they had shifted slightly. The figures angled toward each other, as though continuing a conversation the tree had kept to itself for decades. The one who sat beside her, old guest house parlor. Recent. Mira Dalka posed on the polished floor only because the lighting was good. Warm lamps, soft wallpaper, the antique cabinet giving the room an old-world charm she thought would look elegant in a photo. She leaned back on one hand, catching her breath between shots. The house quiet, except for the faint hum of the heater in the hall. But in the picture, a pale figure settles against the cabinet beside her. Its form blurred as though lowering itself to the floor at the same moment she did. The shape tilts inward, almost companionably, as if mirroring her posture. Mira remembered feeling a strange pressure along her arm then. Light but definite, like someone brushing past to sit down. Later, when she returned to the room, she noticed a faint smear of condensation on the cabinet, right where the figure's shoulder would have rested, as if it had lingered a little longer after she stood. The face in the field. Wildflower meadow. Recent. Alara Voss had wandered into the meadow for a dreamy photo shoot, hoping the tall flowers and soft evening light would make the scene feel timeless. She walked slowly for the camera, fingers brushing petals, the air warm enough to blur thought. But in the printed frame, a pale face emerges from the tree line behind her. Long features, hollow eyes, its expression fixed in a kind of patient grief. It seems to watch her with a familiarity she doesn't return. Alara recalled hearing a single, low breath then, like wind moving through a hollow space, though the meadow around her was completely still. When she revisited the spot days later, she found a path pressed through the flowers, one narrow trail leading from the trees to where she had stood, ending precisely at her shadow's edge. The white shape above the water. Marsh Edge Trail. Recent. Theo Lang took the picture only because the swamp looked eerie under flashlight. Roots twisting like ribs, reeds shivering though the air was still. The surface of the water was glossy and obedient, reflecting every branch and hanging vine with sharp precision. But in the photograph, a pale figure drifts at the far bank, faint as breath on glass, its form rising upright between the trees. It seems almost weightless, as though it were made of mist. But the water beneath it shows nothing. No ripple, no distortion, no reflection at all. Theo remembered hearing a soft step behind him then, the hush of something shifting its weight, though he stood alone on the trail. When he returned the next night, he found the same spot on the bank unusually dry, as if something had stood there long enough to press the moisture out of the soil. Something that left no trace on the water it hovered above. The Man Between the Laughter. Club back room. Recent. Zoe Grant snapped the picture mid-shout, her friends laughing too hard to hold still. The whole night, a blur of lights and noise. It was only meant to be a messy party photo. Nothing staged, nothing serious. But when she looked at it later, she noticed the man standing just behind her shoulder. Pale, perfectly still. His eyes fixed on the camera with a calm that didn't match the room at all. No one remembered him being there. In every other frame from the night, the crowd shifts and sways. Yet, his face never appears again. Zoe swears she felt someone brushing past her spine then, slow and deliberate, though her friends insist the space behind her was empty. And the strangest part, on the wall where he stands in the photo, the light bends slightly inward, as if something real had occupied that spot for far longer than a single shutter click. Hui Tran took the photo only because the abandoned building looked eerie in the beam of his flashlight. The chipped railings, the sagging roof, the kind of quiet that seemed to hold its breath. He meant to capture nothing more than a crumbling staircase before heading back to the road. But in the image, a tall, blurred figure stands on the landing, its outline thinning upward like smoke caught in a draft. It has no face, only the faint suggestion of a head turned toward him. Hai remembered feeling a sudden cold push of air then, as if someone had just brushed past him on their way up the steps, though he stood entirely alone. When he returned in daylight, he found shallow impressions on the dusty cement. One set leading upward, and a second set stopping exactly where the figure had appeared, as though it had been waiting for someone who never came. And that is our last haunted photo for tonight. If that figure on the steps sent a chill through you, tell me in the comments. Do you think it's a spirit still waiting for someone, or just a trick of the dark? Don't forget to like this video if you felt even a little uneasy. Subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss the next collection of cursed images. Who knows? Next time, the ghost that shows up in the photo might be standing right behind you.